Hi, everyone. This is the team Green Mellon, and we are happy to present the Green Affordable Housing Platform. So in our team, we have Mayank and Catherine from Carnegie Mellon University, Silicon Valley campus, and me, Si Hans from Harvard University. So here's our agenda for today. We will first identify the problem, and then we will talk about our solutions, and finally, we will do a business analysis to our solutions. So here's the problem. We are facing two intertwined challenges today: a growing affordable housing crisis and the pressing need to make our built environment more sustainable and resilient to the impact of climate change. We can see from the number that there is many people who are facing the challenge of affordable housing, but only one of the four people can receive assistance from that. So the connection between the problem is clear. So low to moderate income families struggle to find affordable quality housing, while limited resources prevent them from adopting climate resilient measures, perpetuating their financial instabilities and social consequences. Meanwhile, low-income population will enter the negative loop due to the systematic disadvantage, while government and social advocacy will become less effective as they hardly tackle personal burdens. Based on our research finding, we identified three underserved groups: racial and ethnic minorities, young adults starting in families, and the rural communities. So according to the research finding, those three underserved groups are extremely vulnerable to the problem we identify. Based on that, we interview different stakeholders and develop three different personas utilizing census data. Among these personas, we identified three common challenges: a lack of incentive, a lack of resources, and a lack of knowledge and access to information. So how have people attempt to resolve the problem? Based on the analysis using PESTLE framework, we have identified examples that from political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental aspects. We can see that we have done a lot. But why do we need more? Because there are persisting gaps within the current system. So first, existing programs are disconnected. Second, changing individual is not effective enough. And finally, there is still a widely existing knowledge gap. Therefore, in order to complete the puzzles, we propose an integrative approach by building a system where every part can contribute to a sustainable future. We conclude that a top-down approach is necessary, and therefore we will primarily focusing on a business-to-business model. Before we jump into the solution, we will first identify three business persona. The first one is the energy tech company that want to better promote their business. And the second one is the property developer that want to contribute to greater social good, but also need a viable business model. And finally, is the nonprofit and community organization that have limited resources.
Now meet our solution, the Green Affordable Housing Platform, GHP. GHP is a financial innovation that unites consumers, communities, and financial institutions. The mission is simple. We want to empower electrified, sustainable communities and provide a marketplace for developers and energy tech companies, and we want to connect all the clients to the resources that they need. In GHP's vision, it seeks to transform advocacy into tangible sustainability and accessibility results. Instead of being the hero, PNC will be a community builder. For nonprofits and community organizations, GHP will offer low-interest loans for carbon-efficient projects that are qualified for carbon credits. PNC will be their partner in promoting social goods. Developers, GHP got you covered as well. If a developer is committed to energy-efficient housing projects, also qualify for carbon credits, GHP sets higher loan limits or lower down payments, and PNC will be their pathway to building a socially and environmentally responsible business. And energy tech companies, PNC is here for you as well. The partnership programs will fuel their business expansion and make sustainability a profitable journey. Navigating in the complexities of property development and house hunting can be overwhelming. One of the most common things that we heard during our interviews is I got so lost. That's why JHP is integrating an AI chatbot to PNC's mobile app, and it will be every client's compass in this intricate landscape. And it will make their experiences with PNC even smoother. Behind the solution stands three key concepts. Carbon efficient project. We define carbon efficient projects as projects that develop two types of properties. Energy efficient housing is based on affordability, climate resilience, and inclusion. We prioritize electrification, climate resilient measures, and ADA compliance into the design as shown in this example. These practices will minimize the energy usage in this home, and it will, while ensuring the life quality of the residents. And community energy centers are built on unused lands, such as former landfills or parking lot roofs. The purpose is to have a local, yet still centralized space for clean energy solutions, such as biomass and solar energy. The second concept is carbon credit marketplace. Carbon credits is tradable financial instrument representing a reduction in greenhouse gas emission. It has two types of market, regulatory and voluntary. Based on the scenarios that we are addressing here, we will be focusing on the voluntary carbon credit market. It involves financing the carbon credit projects, which need to be verified, and the credits issued can be sold freely to the buyers. And based on GHP, PNC will be financing these carbon credit projects like the ones I just mentioned, and it can buy the carbon credits generated by these projects at a pre-negotiated advantageous rates, and it can facilitate the trading directly with clients or through carbon brokers. Finally, meet Penny, the AI chatbot. It sits at the Help Center page. It gathers data, engages in interactive conversations, and provides tailored recommendations, all with an inclusive and accessible design. JHB will be promoting many great projects, and Penny will be the glue that binds all stakeholders together. And this page is accessible without logging into an account, meaning even prospective clients can learn about PNC and its programs. So what does JHP mean to everyone? For community, the private sector, the government, and the bank, it can mean things like increased housing supply, financial incentives, job creation, and new business opportunities. And we will come back to PNC later in business analysis. And before that, I want to highlight that for customers, JHP benefits them in many different aspects. They will live in a more lively neighborhood with improved quality of life. Their costs will be reduced in housing, insurance, and energy usage. And they will have more job opportunities that foster personal development and give them better access to information and resources. And these practices will help them to jump out of the loop that we identified earlier. And now let's move to our business conversation.
Yeah. So what is in it for PNC? PNC Bank already has a deep-rooted commitment in the sustainability space, developing reporting systems and leveraging SBTI metrics and ESG scores to provide dynamic interest rates. Examples like NetStride, the $20 billion commitment for environmental finance, and the 4+1 climate action strategy make our solution in sync with the future vision of PNC Bank. There's a vast market potential here. In 2021 alone, the global construction sector emitted an astounding 10 gigatons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Based on the pricing by some industry leaders, we used a conservative range of $20 to $40 per ton of carbon offset, under using which we estimate our total market in the range of $200 to $400 billion. Addressing only to the United States, where industry results in over 585 million tons of carbon emissions annually, we can expose up to a $20 billion industry, out of which 70% is specifically in residential construction, which is our target market, of course. As PNC Bank has a 3.4% market share in the banking sector, Our obtainable market could be valued between 200 to 600 million dollars, exemplifying the significant impact we aim to achieve. To successfully develop and launch the platform, we have divided the product strategy into different phases. The initial phase A will span approximately for a quarter, where we'll engage in user interviews, conduct workshops, with a primary focus on understanding the demand for sustainable solutions. The phase is pivotal as it underpins the entire project, ensuring we have a solid foundation to build upon. In phase B, we transition from theory to practice. An MVP is the cornerstone of this phase, where we select a few developers and energy companies to engage in the carbon credit trading manually. The primary aim here is to validate the numbers we assume during the planning stage. Phase C is a longer phase with the focus shifting towards expanding our reach and impact. Based on the learnings from the above two phases, we must have identified the gaps and redundancies in the process. And as we aim to onboard more partners, we will work on developing an online platform to fill these gaps. The last phase is a longer phase which can extend from 3 to 4 years. Here we initiate the go-to market and scale the product. Spanning in sub-phase 1, we engage with the existing PNC Bank customers and emphasize the program's commitment to affordability. We introduce Penny. Additionally, we also seek partnerships with the local government agencies. Under this phase D, the sub phase 2, we expand our focus to all PNC Bank customers, introducing community events and workshops to highlight not just our commitment to affordability, but as well as to sustainability. We broaden our partnerships with energy tank companies and collaborate with non-profit organizations and environmental groups to amplify the impact. And in the last phase, with a solid user base, we initiate full-blown advertising campaigns, ensuring our message reaches a wider audience. Our revenue model is twofold, aligning profit generation with social responsibility. We aim to generate revenue through carbon credit trading by taking a percentage off of the profits. And secondly, as we plan to make our loans more lucrative, we anticipate an increase in the volume. Transaction fees from those will contribute to our overall revenue. With an estimated emission of 16 metric ton from a construction of one new house and an average of 1 million new houses built in a year in the US, even if we tap into the 5% of the obtainable housing industry, we can aim for a goal of up to $1 million. As we talk about the big numbers, there are some potential gaps and issues that needs careful considerations. Fluctuating carbon credit prices, regulatory compliances, adoption by developers, and ensuring environmental impact are a few of them. To mitigate these risks, we plan to diversify our carbon credit portfolio, engage in sustainability focused legal team to navigate the complex regulatory landscape effectively, and plan to offer additional subsidies and training programs on sustainable building practices to incentivize developers. In conclusion, GAHP is not just a revenue model, it is a movement. It's a movement towards a greener, more sustainable future that also embraces social responsibility. We believe that profitability and positive impact can coexist, and our strategy is a testament to that belief. We've mentioned a top few resources that we have researched for this one, and thank you for your attention. Please feel free to check our workboard, and we now welcome your questions and suggestions.
And for a side note, I think there's a little error in previous slide. It's actually 1 million. It's because the internet issue is not updated, so the number is 1 million.
Okay, we have about 6 minutes for questioning from the judges.
This is really comprehensive. If you were going to boil it down and just summarize for me, because there's a lot I'm taking in and I'm not sure I'm getting it, to be honest. So if you were going to describe the solution as one thing that you really want to accomplish, what is it?
I think the business-to-business model will be our focus here. And what it essentially does is we'll have the PNC be the initiator of all these great projects. The gap that we are seeing right now is people are willing to commit to sustainability and all these great projects, but they lack the initial funding opportunity to get them started. And we are saying that we can provide all these loans opportunities for them to get started, and all these lower rates and like the lower down payment can be offset by the carbon credit, the financial incentive that will be come back with the carbon credit market.
So on that carbon credit note, it wasn't clear to me who actually owns the carbon credit, and then who pays the accreditation fee. That also wasn't clear to me.
For the first question, it will be the project developers themselves who are, sending all these forms to the auditor and the programs. These developers will receiving the carbon credits, and that's why we are saying in probably like initial contracts, there can be some pre-negotiations going on like what's the rate that PNC can get when they buy back all these carbon credits. I'm not clear on the second question, if you mind clarifying that.
So sorry, one clarification on that. So if I'm playing back what I just heard and make sure I understand it, the project developers own the carbon credit, but they're selling it all the carbon credits to PNC.
It really depends on the project. So some projects, they generate a lot of the credits. I think it's very based on the specific project that we are looking at. So I would say like in the initial rounds of negotiation, definitely PNC is gonna look into the scale of that project and also like considers the current carbon credit value and combining all those information to have a negotiation with the developer on what percentage that we will want or like at what rate.
Okay. Just given that that's it seems like the carbon credit piece is a pretty important part of like making it all pencil. Wouldn't it, depending on who owns and who sells, or in who buys for that matter, wouldn't that look like a pretty big delta in terms of what everyone is making from this on a like project basis? Like how does it, I'm guessing I'm just trying to figure out how it all hangs together if we don't know who's ultimately like holding all the carbon credits. Isn't that pretty big driver in the financial impact of this, right?
Right. So yeah, the voluntary carbon markets are unregulated right now. So these people called ecopreneurs who are working in the greener space as far as development is concerned. These are the people who usually will have the access or like ownership of these carbon credits. But since the market is unregulated, when they're trying to sell it to cash in those credits, that is where the issue comes in, and that is where PNC Bank can come in and bring in transparency and robustness into the model.
Okay, last question. Sorry, fellow judges, I will stop monopolizing. The accreditation fee. So it looks like it's a dotted line from the third-party auditors. So is that the developers that are paying the accreditation fee to the third-party auditors? Is that how I should look at that?
Yeah, that's just a regular fee that auditors are paying to these programs, but
Right.
as some activities that are between them and PNC or even the developers, they don't need to worry about that part. That's why we put the dotted line. They have their own process of handling that part.
Just wanted to know if you had any safeguards regarding the AI. Fair credit standards and the OCC is very specific about how information is presented to borrowers to ensure that they are provided with the full scope of products. And considering you don't have that person-to-person interaction and you're just entering information, that can really create a gap in what information is provided to the borrower. Right. So how are you safeguarding making any violations in that sense?
Right. So since this Penny sits outside of like without even logging into the product, what Penny's main aim is to just aggregate all the data that is already publicly available. This is the government data, this is the PNC Bank data, all these funding information that we had to take like almost 10 to 20 days to just figure out. Penny can have like a very specific collated and based on the question specifically and based on just learning algorithms. It can collate all the data specifically to that user, and then for the next step obviously will be to just interact with the bank representative, but this is just collating all the public data, so I think we should be fine with the regulations in that space.
Yeah, and to add on to that, this is based on our interview with a property owner. He said he's very lost to get even started with like which resources I should look at. And I think this app like mainly it's mainly focusing on help people to get started with like maybe these resources can be really helpful for you. So it can generate like auto-generated summaries and all those to help people get started and connect them to the resources instead of providing the exact advice on the finance or the business that you should work on.